moving on to our next topic, reimagining customer centricity with transformative AI, let me introduce the panelists. Firstly, I would like to invite Shankar to join us on stage. Hari is the SVP, Customer Experience at Future Generali India. He is responsible for establishing the service structure and customer culture at Future Generali. He manages the Customer Insights Program, insurance awareness, and consumer education activities, and also serves as the Grievance Redressal Officer. Under Hari's service leadership, Future Generali has received numerous national and international awards and recognitions, including the Stevie Awards for Sales and Customer Service, Medalia XP Award, and Impresa Award for Fair Business, among others. Hari has been recognized as one of the 50 most influential customer service professionals by CXLR. Welcome, Hari. Marketing Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. He is strategic enterprise leader focused on driving change through innovative marketing, empathetic leadership, and disruption of the status quo. With over 15 years of experience in the insurance industry, Vikram has been with Bajaj Allianz General Insurance since January 2010. His roles have included heading digital marketing, serving as executive assistant to the MD and CEO, and holding positions as deputy manager and assistant manager in renewals. Prior to his tenure at Bajaj, Vikram worked as a business development executive at Matrix Cellular. He holds an MBA in marketing from West Bengal University of Technology and Bachelor of Engineering in Information Technology from Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Welcome to the panel, Vikram. I would now like to invite Shekhar Saurabh as our third panelist. Shekhar is the Chief Marketing Officer at TATA AIG General Insurance, bringing over 11 years of experience in marketing, sales, and digital strategy. A seasoned professional, Shekhar has an exceptional understanding of consumer behavior, market dynamics, and competitive landscape within the industry. In his previous stint, he was the category head of home care at Godrej Consumer Products Limited, where he was responsible for managing a portfolio of household insecticides and laundry brands that generated over 3,500 crore in revenue. His core competencies span market research, competitive analysis, strategy formulation, brand management, product innovation, and digital marketing. Shekhar has spearheaded numerous successful campaigns and product launches for leading brands, earning multiple awards and recognition for his contributions. As a thought leader in the marketing domain, Shekhar continues to shape strategies that drive growth and innovation in the insurance sector. Welcome, Shekhar. As a moderator for this panel discussion, I would like to invite Abhi Kapadia, Senior Manager, Customer Success, Lemnisk, to moderate the session. Yeah, welcome, Abhi.
Very good evening to all of you. Thank you, Mridul, for introducing the panelists here. And welcome, Hari, Vikram, and Shekhar. So as we are knowing the topic, reimagining the customer centricity with transformative AI, right? We've all seen that over the last couple of years, AI has taken the world by storm, starting with OpenAI's LLM model to now talking about tasks and agents and so on and so forth. There's been a lot of growth and a lot of disruption in the market. And of course, that begs the question, how can different enterprises actually leverage AI in the right manner? So let's begin. Let's get to the heart of this question right away. Right? Of course, AI requires a lot of data, and all these different businesses, we all gather mountains and mountains of data from different sources, be it social media, be it your own websites, or even your agent systems. But does all data mean better insights? Or does that mean that there's always challenges in terms of where the data is kept, or the legacy systems within that, or the quality of the data in the first place? So I would like to get to know from you, what are the specific challenges that concern you as a business the most when it comes to driving AI-driven experiences? Yes, if you can start.
Okay. You want to go first? No. So we were just talking, I checked with him how long he has been in insurance, and he said some 15 years plus. I realized I have been there some 16, 17 years plus. Something is happening right that we are not leaving the industry. Maybe we may have left the organization or so, but something is growing over there. But it's growing like a flourishing tree without like the grooming which is there in the park, the manicured park. So in data, you would like to imagine it like the manicured park. I mean, very prim and prime, very well cut, and you can make the segments also. Unfortunately, it does not work like that because insurance is very business to customer. You are not going to your customers directly, except in a few cases where your model is only to go direct to customers. Now, what are the problems it poses? You would want to get the data like the customer personal data, the property data, the thing that is insuring in a certain formats and legible also. But there is that business, the one in between, who is getting this data for you, who wants to procure it in their own way. And then there is also that tussle, that whose data is it really? Is it the customer's data? Is it the partner's data who is procuring? Or is it the insurance company's data? And in that, you have to make some sense in the mayhem. You have to make some understanding over there. So, for example, I mean, you are working with the dealers or you're working with the workshops over there, the national tie-ups. So they would say, my insurance policy is in this format. I'll just put your brand at the top. And you do not have much bandwidth to negotiate over there. Whereas if you are doing your own insurance policy, it would be different. So whatever you are procuring directly, maybe you are able to maintain a data hygiene or so. But at other places, you have to adjust. And that is perhaps where you are coming to the problem solving of how to organize this data. Some very simple and basic things to be done. I mean, some organizations may have progress to be having a full-fledged data warehouse and CDPs on top of that and the CRMs on top of that. It's not that the other organizations who do not have all these technologies are not being able to work also. They have also found their own cuts and they have found their workaround. So simple expedients like maybe deploying the master of the masters. Okay, this person is Hari, but what is he? Is he code green? Is he code blue or so? So those masters when you build for your vehicles, for your hospitals, for your other things, the underwriting, so that is one thing which solves. Still, the way in which you maintain the hygiene or the architecture that you do, that is the second thing. Then you'd also look at maybe some of the AI, the tools that you would deploy over there, the fuzzy logics that you would deploy over there, or similar sounding things, or to what degree can you say that, okay, with 95% or 99% accuracy, I can say that this data belongs to this person. And yes, KYC has been helping, but then the DPDP is in the pipeline, and still there are more concerns. Earlier panelists were also talking about that. So only there is so much that you can do with the data, and it is going to get masked, and then there are further guidelines that you may not be able to use KYC as a means of only fetching contact details and using that ahead. So these are the challenges, and those are some of the solutions around that. But I would be honest to say that we do not have one solution or one talisman fitting all. You have to keep evolving and keep growing in that.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So one thing, one of the observation that I had with this industry is insurance, and let's say in particular that when we speak about data, there is no end vision in mind. So in e-commerce per se, like if I have to take a certain example, whenever they collect any kind of any data, they know what's the end, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, how I'm going to use the data, and hence how do I sort of store it so that it can be used and manifested and cut, then slice, and it can be used later on. I'll give you an example. So I was talking to one of my Amazon counterparts, and what he was saying, that imagine someone who is, let's say, who is buying a women Horlicks, for instance, right now. Highly likely she might be a woman somewhere on her 20s, 25, 26, something like that. 5 years down the line, she is expected to be a mother. So after that, then you can sell mother Horlicks. 5 years down the line, you can sell her junior Horlicks. Maybe at 40, you can sell her light Horlicks, Horlicks light, which is Horlicks diabetic. I mean, that's the way you can plan. And to her kids, you can send base Horlicks. I mean, you have to have a certain vision. Of course, we want to collect data. Of course, we want to store data. Like, the entire organization is running behind that. It has got its own challenges, like silos and everything, the way we mentioned. But we need to have a certain end vision in mind, the way we build our brands, the way we build our strategy for businesses. We should have a proper targeted strategy of the data that 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, how I'm going to use it, and accordingly structure my entire ecosystem so that the entire thing can be funneled to make such use cases. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so firstly, the benefits of having incredible panelists, especially sir, who spent so much time in the industry. जवाबों की आवश्यकता नहीं हम दोनों we would possibly not do any justice, but because we represent a traditional organization and we've become as ancient as that, 15 years almost in the same company. The biggest problem of using data and AI is data is always in silos, right? Especially in bigger organizations, which have been over 20 plus years in existence, they've got data in silos. So that's one big problem because AI completely functions on data, and that too data which is in a particular place where it can access it, because AI is speed, right? But if the data is all across, that becomes a problem. Secondly, the consistency of the data. Even today, most insurances is sold through our channel partners, which is offline. Now they're all entering data in whichever manner they feel is right. Now having a consistent data is also very, very critical, which is rare in today's day and age. And that's where I think platforms like CDP come into place, where they create, where they cleanse the data and make sure that it's in a format that your AI tool can understand, assimilate, and give you a response which is as fast as it's supposed to be. So I think for me, these two are absolutely critical for any AI to succeed, which is data. One, they're in silos, they have to be in one concrete place, and two, they have to be as consistent and as concise as possible, because otherwise it'll throw you output, but it'll not be the way you want to see it, because you know how the output should be, because that's how you're giving the command, but it'll never satisfy you. So that's, like, for me, these are the two challenges that I see in a traditional organization where a CDP could really play a role and where AI can get hampered if they're not in place.
No, completely agree with you, Vikram. And rightly said, Shekhar, that there are many use cases that you can actually implement, but as long as these challenges exist, it's not going to really work out. But like you mentioned, right, a woman, in her 20s, going through her 40s and different products coming to them, that's a really beautiful use case, an exceptional use case to think about when you actually go about it. I had recently read about this other, model where the system was able to predict if the person is going to get pregnant just by the products that they were actually buying in the grocery shop, right? And that's just phenomenal. I just wanted to know from you, really curious, what are some exceptional use cases you all have come across or maybe implemented in your organization that have been transformative?
I mean, I'll not answer the question first, but what you shared about also reminded me something scary, that someone is getting pregnant and by the grocery you are getting to know, and somehow the contact number listed is that of the parent, and if it's something they wanted to tell, not tell, I mean, they are independent families, so that's also another thing. I mean, data usage, to what degree to go and to whom to go. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Anyone of you want to
give the answer? We've actually had, in our company, Bajaj Allianz General, done two interesting use cases. And one was many years back, even before the whole AI, ML now has become like a buzzword. So, our claims team had a review with our MD and CEO, Mr. Tapan Singhel, and they said, what, we've done a great job. Back in the eras, if people had cars back then, claim settlement used to take a month. Aapko bumper leke office jana padta tha. This is many, many years back. To now, they said that 24 hours and we can settle claims. And they thought they'll get promotions, increments, and whatnot. And my MD said, that sounds interesting. Why can't it be minutes, right? And it blew their minds that हम 24 घंटे मर के लाए, he's saying minutes. But the beauty is they went back, and that's the comfort of being in a traditional organization. Data की कमी नहीं है. Like I said, 20 plus years of settling claims, and we've settled them enough and more to have a lot of data, right? So we created a tool called MOTS. It's called Moto on the Spot. If you're a Bajaj customer and if you have our app, Caring Leo's app, if you meet with an accident, you have to step out, click pictures of the dent, upload it on the app. In 15 minutes, 15 minutes, it tells you the estimate of the damage. Let's say it tells you 11,000 rupees is the worth. Do you want the money? Yes or no? If you hit yes, in 5 minutes, the money hits your account, which means 20 minutes, claim settled. Now, when you go to a garage, you tell them, yaar, gaadi thoka, ab theek kara dijiye. He says, 8,500 ka hai. The remaining money is for you to keep. Will not come after you ki paisa wapas de do. So that's the level to which we've gone in terms of helping you settle claims. And a lot of people forget that the only product that insurance is claims, right? If I can't do that as beautifully as this, then selling policies has no relevance. So that was one thing. Second, we've got another interesting tool on our website. It's called Insurance Samjho. The unfortunate part of also being overtly educated is no one's reading their policies, right? Padhe likhe sab hai, but policy koi nahi pad raha, right? And जब claim का वक्त आता है, they say ये तो मिलना चाहिए था, नहीं मिला, and then they blame companies. But you're also entitled, and you have to read your policy documents. So this tool, if you upload, you could be any insurance company customer. We don't want your data, just to place it on record here. It's in public domain. But if you upload your policy document, it'll help you understand your policy. You can actually chat with that bot to understand what's covered, what's not covered, so on and so forth. So the beauty is, the whole point at Bajaj Allianz General, what we try and do is, see, the market is huge. So there is absolutely zero chances of cannibalism. What we're trying to do is educate people. The more people understand the benefits and the power of insurance, the more they will buy. And the more they will buy, the better it is for the country at large and not just the companies. So these are two things that we've already implemented, and we've got a lot of positive sentiments. One is claim settlement, one is understanding the policy. So yeah.
Definitely, those are really interesting use cases that I'm sure are impacting your bottom lines to the great end. What about you, Shekhar? Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, totally. One other thing, like rightly my friend said here, like, we want to ensure that our consumers understand what's the ecosystem like, or what's actually the entire insurance industry is all about. Like, even if right now, if I ask you to show a raise of hand and just let me know that how many of you have gone through your entire policy document papers, I mean, the answer might be like on the lower side, much lower side. We mostly don't read the papers in detail and just look at the top things and just leave it at there. And on top of that, one of the things which we realized, like from a consumer perception point of view, and this is something which is already ongoing, and I've been observing this, that at the end of it, consumers want to have a lot of items, a lot of line items for their policy, but then they want to pay at a certain level, like, minimize the cost but maximize the benefits, like a regular Indian consumer. Now, how do we do that in this insurance sector, given that, like, the medical costs are rising up consistently? One of the things which we have realized and which we have ultimately arrived at, like, several policies at times we buy, it has got multiple benefits actually which is not needed for you. So for instance, let's say I go and buy policy X with policy X, which is sort of a standard most selling, let's say, product. Now that product may not be needed by a person. Let's say this particular policy has a maternity benefit, but this may not be required by a man, but it's getting sold as a bouquet into it. Let's say someone is at a 25-year-old or 26-year-old. He may not be getting impacted by diabetic so soon, which typically tends to happen at 40. So that kind of a customization, like, we are trying to learn from our consumer basis their input, and then trying to give them a certain recommendation that why don't you go take this with so and so customization, so that one, it's made for them, tailored for them, and at the same time it's at a cost which is normally slightly lower, or let's say at a certain reasonable price to them versus what they would typically pay. So that's how we are trying to address this using technology and AI. Let's see how do we go in this aspect.
That's quite interesting. I hope you achieve great success. Yeah. What about you, Hari?
Yeah. Maybe they stole some of the thunder. We are three insurers, and many common overlaps will be there, many common grounds will be there. So I'm trying to think of something over and above that. But before I go to that, I mean, I again remember a moment of realization or an anecdote. I mean, AI was never there in the pipeline maybe 15 years back, or not that predominant. And one day, I mean, at the early stages of insurance career, like 100 workstations there and 100 people working on it. And after, I mean, like working in deep work, I got up on a small break and saw around what's happening, everyone absorbed. That was a moment of realization. I felt that 100 computers are working on 100 people rather than 100 people working on 100 computers. It looks like as if the laptops and the desktops are dictating to the people. So sometimes it's a thin line which is blurring over there. You feel that you are the person who is commanding, but you are the person who is equally getting commanded, because those are the templates and the tools that you have been prescribed, and you are just following what has been given to you. So anyways, parking that aside, coming to some of the use cases, a couple of them. One, and I think when we talk AI, still 70 to 80% of the work being done is generative AI. So one of the use cases is of generative AI, and we use a chatbot representing our mascot of the lion, which is Leo. And this is not only like solving issues for the customer, of course, which is good to have, but how to make it like a human kind of AI. So this AI tool which is there actually cracks jokes, has a persona, tells things about oneself, or like understands what's there for the other person, but it has to be still careful not to rub the customer on a wrong side when they are undergoing a traumatic or a difficult time because of the hospitalization situation or an accident situation also. So that's one use case, and we see that the adoption, be it over WhatsApp, be it over the website, and be it over the app, has been picking up. That's one use case. Earlier, I was talking about how, and he was talking about how insurance is very channel driven. If you have to succeed, you have to succeed with the customer in between the channel partners, and then you will succeed with the end customer. So when we came up with new products like our do-it-yourself health, which allows the customer to customize his options in the policy, what to take, what not to take, and more like a web-driven kind of thing. And we took up the mascot of, say, Apar Shakti Kurana, who's customizing his sandwich. So we allowed the same customization to be done by our agents in the field. So when they were sending the video of Apar Shakti, they can customize with their own names or so. Or recently, when we are doing the renewal of the policies, the video which comes to them talks about the customer with their name, telling the key details, and it's an engaging kind of thing which happens there. So that, I hope, builds a little bit of wow to the customer and catches his attention at a prime time. Otherwise, there are so many reminders coming to take money out of his pocket, and maybe he can remember this nicely. What he was talking about is the comparison of the pictures and the settlement of the claims in the 15 minutes. So, in fact, some things which are meant to give better efficiencies also help the customer. So, for example, in the health claim, the early fraud detection, basis the algorithms which are there, how can it help the customer if the fraud is getting detected? Is it not going to prevent money from going to him? Yes, it will help him, because 90% or 95% of the claims will not have any likely investigation requirements. So they can now be put on the fast track. And it is now to deal with those 10% or 5% where there are some flags to be looked at. So those are some very exciting use cases which are happening and which we are taking care of, and more to come.
No doubt. And I completely agree that customer delight is also a big part of how you can use AI. And while we discussed all the use cases and the challenges, one thing that you touched upon, Hari, really struck a chord with me, and which is, on that example that I was just giving in the past, that does the user actually want to know about what is going on with their life? And do they want the company to know? And that's where the point of ethics comes in, right? AI is growing by leaps and bounds, but a very big pillar of knowing and building AI is the ethics behind it, how you are using the data, how you are communicating to the customer, and many more things. What are your thoughts on what the frameworks or benchmarks should be in ensuring that you do not make the customer feel awry, at the same time using AI to transform your businesses? Maybe you can start, Shekhar.
Yeah, sure. So 2-3 things here in this aspect. One, of course, like most of the countries have their own set of guidelines. We also have our own guidelines and certain principle in our country. One, of course, we follow that. Apart from that, there are 2-3 things like which organization to organization varies a lot. And at least I can tell you about Tata that we are very, very particular in terms of what we sort of pick the data from the consumer and how do we pick that. I mean, both of them are very, very important. And thirdly, we go slightly a step ahead and inform the consumer time to time that, okay, we are using A, B, C data points of yours. We have this in the repository. Do you want to sort of, because it's required for XYZ regions, and we just keep on informing them, maybe by emails or by text messages or something like that. But so that sort of communication goes. So I believe that's the transparency is very, very important, one. And second, you collect the data points which are absolutely needed. Not like, let's say, you are having, how many family members and all those things. Of course, you can use that because then at the end of it, later on, you can sell another policy. But somewhere you have to draw that line, that what's actually needed for you to run that particular business and, let's say, to facilitate the transaction for that particular consumer. And then you proceed along with that. I think that's I believe transparency and fairness is very, very important and critical in this aspect.
Makes sense. Yeah, Ari, I think this is a topic which is really important to you as well. Would love to hear.
No, all of us insurers on the panels and important for all of us. So I was just thinking again on that. Today I'm wearing a gray suit, but ethics is never gray. It is always black and white. And if you are wearing, your ethics right and not lightly on your sleeves, you'll get it right most of the time. Government is not leaving, first of all, any stone unturned. There is so much which is there. Some may even say it looks like draconian DPDP to be implemented. I mean, fines to the tunes of 250 crores can be there if you are not. So it is in everyone's interest to be on the right side of the law and to ensure that things are followed. Of course, compliance at times looks like a onerous task and looks like a burden. But again, talking about if the principles are around that which are correct. On frameworks, I think the more we audit, the more we can get it right. And I know the weakest chain into any data leaks or problems which happen is the human chain. Someone not knowing something simple as ignorance and doing something which they were not supposed to do. Accessing maybe something which could leak the data through a weak firewall or so. So those are important. The frameworks that you build for periodic audits and have a equanimous frame over there. Our friend already touched upon the need to know. What do you need to know that only, explain why you need to know that, and then how you stole that data. Again, there are regulatory frameworks around that. So if you are transparent, if you have accountability, if you have control mechanisms, if you are educating the right people, and education has to be done again and again, and perhaps if it strikes a chord on how personally also it can cause a damage to them if they get involved in something like that, then perhaps you have been able to create the movement. Because more and more data will keep on being available, and we have to work with that carefully.
Makes sense, Hari.
I don't think I can add too much, but unfortunately, the industry, insurance industry, is anyway notorious where people think कि claim नहीं दे रहे या policy ले ली and the works. So we have to be even more cautious because they know that ये भी नहीं हो रहा, data भी ले लिया, now what are they up to, right? So one, of course, we are very strongly regulated by IRDAI. So I think, thankfully, last few years they've become very aggressive. They are into the last mile, and I'm glad they do that because it's also for the end consumer. They know that if you're regulated that strongly, it's very rare that you could really misuse something that can easily be misused, right? Secondly, like both of them said, of course, we constantly communicate with our customers that this is what we have. If you are uncomfortable, this is what you can miss out, but that's completely your call. And luckily today's generation, thanks to the OTTs of the world, they want full control. कब उन्हें देखना है, कब pause करना है, even for their data, they want full control. कितना पता होना चाहिए, कितना नहीं. Even if they miss out on something, I think they're okay, because that will be their conscious call, and that's something that is with today's generation, that they like to have that control, no matter how big a company or a smaller company you are, but they want full control. So I think, and companies take cognizance of that because they know that they're dealing with that generation predominantly, and they can't take them for a ride. So in terms of following all nitty-gritties to the core, and thanks to social media, if you goof up, one customer even with 2 followers can rip you open. So it doesn't matter if you're an influencer, not an influencer. Social media is like wildfire. Ek sahi tili lagi and it can go crazy, right? So I think all companies are very mindful of that. So they're very particular and cautious.
I will just add to the both the gentlemen here. Like, very, very recently, like, sometimes in our industry, even a small set of data leak in somewhere in dark web or somewhere getting reported, it's like you have to inform IRDAI with all the set of things, like, what happened, why it happened, and what are you doing to prevent that. I mean, that's the kind of protocol and that's the kind of strictness this industry has. Like, even one person's data, like saying somewhere at someone, just say, let's say if someone goes out of this room and say that X insurance company's one person's data got leaked, there is a huge set of protocol to be followed after that. Like, it's so stringent. So yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's not only the data. I think your question was also around the AI. The other risk and the framework around that, I mean, one is the biases which creep in with AI. We all know AI is learning. AI is what you feed into it, and it will give the answers only as intelligent about that. So if you ask a question about Mother's Day to explain a mother, typically it will go on the homemaker side of the mother and not look at the mother as also the achiever of the world or so. Or if you look for crime, it would maybe look for the people, or terrorism for the people with the turban and the people with the long beards, or the people gun-toting, that kind of thing. A terrorist may be something very sophisticated or a different thing altogether also. So those biases weeding out in the AI that you build are also important. And earlier, I think my friend Dilpreet from ITC was talking about like how customization goes wrong. I mean, those are also frameworks to be controlled over there. So just because there's a single person as eating the same thing, same happens. I mean, all these OTTs that we are talking, the music also, just because maybe 10 days in a row I have heard a bhajan in the morning doesn't mean that the 11th day I also want to hear the same bhajan. My repertoire may include the Spanish dance or may include a yo-yo honey sing, or it could be very varied. You cannot feed. So that is the controls that we as humans have to build, that we remain the master rather than AI becoming the master. Otherwise, the Frankenstein that we create on ourselves will have to be controlled by ourselves only.
Very rightly put, Hari. I think human agency is very important in the age of AI agents. And I think that's a really great note to conclude this conversation upon. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on how we can transform the world's businesses through this new disruptive technology. Really glad to have you here again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was an intriguing and informative discussion. Thank you very much, Hari, Vikram, Shekhar, and Abhi for this. I would like to invite Rinku onto the stage to present a token of appreciation to the panelists.